Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Movie Grade. I'm your host, J.R. Alba. I'm joined here today with
Jay Anderson.
Skittles, your local balloon artist.
Thank you guys for joining us. All right, so this weekend we had the opportunity to watch the most highly anticipated movie of the summer, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's not obvious. Honestly, this was something that I myself have been waiting for many, many years. Ever since Deadpool 1 came out, even the fact that Deadpool 1 did not almost happen, is just one of those things that to me was the highlight of the summer. It's the highlight, dare I say, my life. And this was one of those things that I was waiting for. So for me personally, first impressions, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It was exactly how I felt it needed to be. Yes, Marvel Jesus came, and I believe he also saved the Marvel Universe. So with that being said, though, that's my first impression on this. How did you feel?
As far as my first impression of the movie, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of worried about all the hype. There was so many commercials and everything, so I was like, "Oh, please don't let this be an overhyped machine." I've been burned before. And it turned out it lived up to the hype. Dare I say, maybe even exceeded it a bit.
That's awesome.
Definitely, first impression, I thought it was just funny. I thought it was silly, but in the best ways possible. It wasn't too overdone. It was Ryan Reynolds, basically.
Definitely. Ryan Reynolds is the merc with the mouth. I always feel that no matter what happens, Ryan Reynolds will always be Deadpool. I don't really. I know that there have been some voice actors that were predecessors to Ryan Reynolds, but honestly, I almost feel like when whoever was creating Deadpool already had Ryan Reynolds in mind. And I don't know how that cohesion happened, but it happened one way or another, and it worked brilliantly. So aside from that, obviously, my first impression is it's a great movie, guys. I honestly think it's a great movie. The whole of the story is great. I personally just wow, I liked it. Shoot, I'm trying to think a little bit more here to what else to say without going into spoilers, but we will go into a spoiler zone, guys, with this movie, and we're gonna make sure to do that a little bit later, just because there's a lot to talk about this movie. There was a lot of shadow work that happened in this movie because they did deceive you on a lot of different things and stuff like that, and I think that was one of the highlights of the movie is that you're gonna be in for some surprises.
Yeah, they actually made sure that in the marketing. Later in an interview by Ryan Reynolds recently, he said that one of the things that killed him was the studio told him, "Hey, I need you to spread these rumors. I know we're lying, but just please spread them." So he had to lie and confirm a lot of falsehoods for this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I spent a good chunk of watching interviews right after this movie, so I was one of those things. Then the before and after is just fantastic. Moving into the story, into the whole thing, story wise, I personally felt the story worked out beautifully. If you look at the predecessors, Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, obviously, this is not considered Deadpool 3. That was actually one of the things I found out was the studio, when they were going to make the next Deadpool movie, they did not want to make it Deadpool 3. That was actually one of the things that they were pushing for. So, but kind of, being a trilogy, going into the predecessors, I think the story was fantastic. How did you feel about that?
If you're watching the other two movies, it does tie into those movies. As a movie, it does do a good job following up with that motif. But even if you don't, it does stand on its own. The writing's there for it to stand on its own. So it does give you enough to hint at and tell you, just in case you got a little caught up and you're just like, hey, who's the unicorn hooker? Spoiler, or maybe,
Yeah,
they explain the hookers from part two,
exactly.
and that's how it works, so I like that stuff. They're able to self-contain. So story-wise, it was a solid story. It wasn't you're not going to get Shakespeare, okay? Don't go into a Marvel movie expecting Shakespeare.
Yes, please.
Okay, but it's a fun movie, reminiscent of planes, trains, and automobiles, and a good old buddy cop movie. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
I was thinking of mentioning that as well, that it's one of those movies that if you're really not wanting to see the entire trio, even though it's not technically a trio, because hopefully we have more to look forward to.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that you could just go into it, and it's, I feel like, the more enjoyable out of the three, if I'm being completely honest. But you don't have to go back and watch one and two. They do a nice little throwback. They do really nice on flashing back as you're watching the movie while it's all unrolling.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
I said, like you were mentioning earlier, there's a lot within this movie. There's so much going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. They really made sure to tie it all together in a nice
Mhm.
little bow. But it's also not necessary to, that you really don't have to watch one and two to enjoy this one movie. But I say watch all of them personally. I'm going to continue to gush. This is my movie. This is my time. Let me
Yeah,
have
you're a
it.
big fan.
But yeah, definitely. So story wise, there you go. It's nice, cohesive piece. And obviously. Trying to get not go into the spoiler territory just quite yet, which we are about to do. We there is a lot of I guess I want to say a lot of the acting going into that. I mean, obviously, it's a Marvel movie, guys. Like he said, you're not don't expect Shakespeare, and usually I will talk about sound effects or special effects and all that stuff. And it's a comic book movie, guys. And you know what? Just like a comic book movie, it's gonna do what a comic book movie is supposed to do. There's gonna be all the sci-fi, all the fantasy, everything is supposed to be there. So let's just go ahead and not have to worry too much about that. But so we're just gonna go just in this one more piece, which is basically just going into the acting itself. And I already said it. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, and of course, we have the opportunity to bring back Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. And I know that was one of those things that a lot of people were really, really huge fans of. I do like Wolverine, but I'm more of a Deadpool fan, very much. And so, but bringing into it where all the actors come into place, everybody performed like a character. Everybody performed like a comic book character. I didn't feel like somebody was trying to be something they weren't. And we'll get more into that. But I personally, acting wise, I think everybody pulled their weight. I think they went above and beyond. How did you feel, Jay?
I mean, acting wise, I mean, everyone did a good job. I mean, as far as the main two, stars of the movie themselves, um, I can't believe I'm saying this. Maybe it's because Victor's not here, and maybe I miss him a little bit. But I'm gonna channel Victor in a little bit. I'm just gonna be like, Ryan Reynolds just played Ryan Reynolds, as you stated before. I mean, he is Deadpool, but at the same time, I also felt like he really hammed it up with the Ryan Reynolds things. Without getting too into it, Ryan Reynolds plays another version of Ryan Reynolds, and I don't like it. It's just that Ryan Reynolds made me realize that he is a little unbearable. I see what Victor's talking about. I get it now. That aside, I want to take the attention away from Deadpool and Wolverine. I know, and point out the main antagonist, Cassandra Nova. Fantastic acting on her end. I mean, she drove me in because a lot of issues with Marvel, and I could be the first one to admit it because I love this franchise, but we do have a super villain problem. We don't have a lot of memorable villains. They're either a clone of the villain or they're just a forgotten nobody. And you get weirdos like me who are the only ones who are saying Malekith was kind of cool. I don't
Okay.
say it that loudly, you notice. But Cassandra Nova kind of fixed that void for me. She kind of fixed that. I felt not so much cartoonishly crazy from her as the previews kind of indicate, because the previews can only give you so much, but there was a lot of torment and hurt behind that craziness. It almost felt reminiscent of Dementis from Mad Max.
Oh yeah,
Ironically enough, the one part of that movie that I enjoyed the most.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I found myself drawn to Cassandra Nova so much in this movie, and not to take away from Ryan and Hugh, who did an amazing job playing a very different Wolverine. Sandra Nova, I'm gonna shine that light on her bald head because she honestly deserved it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When it came to Deadpool, I feel like he fits the role very, very well with Ryan Reynolds, like how you guys were saying. The costume, I think everything visually, it was very pleasing, as well as Wolverine, not just Deadpool. This is the first time we actually got to see him going in and putting on the mask. That was a great moment. That was really one of those where I'm not a huge Wolverine fan, but I think back of like those, like you guys.
Right.
You guys are deep into Deadpool, but there's some people out there who are like so
crazy.
I'm sorry. That goes well with the movie.
Did you
too.
feel that? Sorry,
you
Ryan.
you
Not
have
sorry.
to mention that these characters, when they're fighting, not only is it like, oh man, like they're getting really violent, they're getting really into it. At some point, I'm like, okay, they're getting really into it, a little too much. They're enjoying this a little bit too much at some point.
Almost felt homoerotic.
Yeah, I was like, they just need to bone and get over it.
Right.
Absolutely.
But other than that, I know there's some like there's this famous actor. He's always coming out in Kevin Smith's movies. Just like a fun little fact, Jason Mewes.
Oh yeah.
He loves the Wolverine so much that he named his firstborn daughter Logan.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Just a fun little fact to throw out there.
That is an awesome fact. That is so cool.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about things like that, like, and you, I know you're geeking out about this for a while now, so
I've been waiting to gush. Not even gonna lie.
so it was fun all around. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Well, so all good points there, and I think from here on we'll end up going into spoiler territory. So before we go into that, I guess let's go into the grade. And again, if you haven't been here before, we don't do things on a 10-point scale. We do this from A+ to F-. So this is where I get a chance to ask my guests. What grade do you guys give this movie?
Okay, well, story, it gets an A, obviously. Action, it gets an A. So, I mean, honestly, this is high marks, and this movie's going to get a high grade. And I know everyone wants me to be picky because I've been, like, dogging everything the majority of what we watch. But no, actually, this one, I'm going to give it just a solid A. Not an A-, not an A+, just a solid A. It did the work, and it passed. Flying colors, you win.
I agree with the A. I feel like they went above and beyond with this film. I wouldn't give it anything lower than an A. I wouldn't give it an A-, but I think I want to stick with a solid A as well.
Solid A. And I'm just gonna have to give it the A+ that it deserves, I think. But that's also because I am a huge fan of Deadpool, huge fan of Ryan Reynolds, of all three movies, obviously, and I felt like if this were to be the last Deadpool movie or last chance that I ever see Deadpool again, I would feel that they tied it up nicely. I feel that this is a nice gift you gave me. You gave me 1, 2, and 3, and you ended with Deadpool and Wolverine, the one thing that I've wanted to see, or that everyone wanted to see more than anyone else. And that's because for me, I'm a huge fan of it. So I have to give it that A+. And that's my take on that. And I guess, we deliberate and everything. We'll just go ahead and round it off to an A, because it is. I will be the one to give it the A+, but it's a solid A. There's nothing else I can say about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think solid A is the fairest grade possible, and I bet there's gonna be those trolls or whatever that are gonna try to belittle this movie. And if you do belittle this movie, you're just sad.
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, this movie is fun, and if you are a fan, I think you would appreciate it. If you are a casual fan of like superheroes in general, I think you would enjoy it. But if you went into this movie looking for something wrong, you're going to find something wrong.
Yeah,
and I think that's how it goes with all movies.
Yeah, and you have those MCU haters, and that's another thing too. I'm going to point out is you got the fandoms that, I'm sorry, and I'm just going to call you guys out. You guys are toxic. You guys need to stop. All right, like you said, MCU has been giving you, so many good movies, I mean, whether you like it or not, Infinity War and Endgame of the Avengers were the pinnacle point of just showing you how magical, how awesome this can get, to the point where you get single characters that all of a sudden you get them all into one solid film. And, you know, and it just shows that that the potential is always there, you know, and that they're building up to hopefully another potential of doing that. And honestly, I think that the toxicity just needs to stop, you know, guys, again. And that's one of the things I will point out, is that Movie Grade, we're movie lovers, and I put it on the title. We love movies, and aside from that, I love Deadpool. I know you like your comic books characters, your movies, and Skittles, you're a movie lover, and I know that we get a chance to talk every now and then. You express, you know, your love for movies, and you'll help dissect some of those and stuff, and give us different points. You know, I forgot about the ladies fan service entirely.
Oh.
So thank you guys very much for being here. Once again, I am J.R. Alva. I'm joined here today with...
I'm Jay Anderson, a manager and sometimes a commentator at PWL. You can look me up at PWL El Paso, or look me up at any social media at PWL Pro Wrestling Legacy. We have a match coming up where you can see my champion Thrash dominate the competition.
Nice. And I'm Skittles, your local balloon artist. You could always look up on Instagram, Skittles Balloon Artist.
And she does amazing balloons. You see that Deadpool there? She actually did this on the fly today. So she works quick. She does amazing work, guys. So if you do need somebody to make some balloon, she does not just animals, clearly. So thank you very much for being here, Skittles. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you again, Jay. Thank you guys for watching.